Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, we're going to be painting a sunset landscape. We're going to try to keep it simple, and I'll show you step by step how to do this one if you want to try it. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey everybody.
He's man in chat tonight, so if you can ask questions while I'm painting. And yeah, let's get started. This should be a fun one. I've got a 9 by 12 inch canvas. You can really use any size you wanted to. If you want to make it square, you could add more grass or more sky at the top, whatever. Going to be using chalk to draw on here. Yeah, I haven't done anything to the canvas. Sometimes I'll like paint the background with a color. This one I wasn't sure. I didn't really want to go too yellow or too pink with it, so I just left it plain. We'll just fill it in as we go. You're going to want a lot of kind of textural brushes or stipplers for this one. There's a lot of trees and foliage and things, and then you'll need a large kind of flat for your sky area. But this sky is pretty simple. It's a nice ombre color, so we'll have a nice gradual fade and some really bright pops of color for the sunset. I took this photo ourselves. It was at a wedding, and it was incredible. It was so beautiful. I was like, we were in the middle of a conversation with friends. I was like, wait. I had to run over and grab my camera and take some photos because it was like, wow, this is insane. So all the colors of the rainbow. Let's go over our colors, speaking of. I decided to go with a simple palette, and we'll do some mixing. So I've got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow light, pyrrole orange. You could use cadmium red light instead. Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo blue green shade, and Phthalo green yellow shade, Unbleached Titanium, and Titanium white. And then I've got some glazing liquid here, some satin glazing liquid. All right, so let's draw. Let's just get straight to it here. First thing, first time I cropped this, I had just very little grass, and it felt like I wanted a little bit more of that dark or that bright green in the foreground because it really made those dark areas kind of sing. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that green here. So come maybe not quite to the corner, just above the corner, and do kind of a gradual slope like that. And then I'm going to do a set of trees. Had our first sigh from Fitzy tonight, so we're on good, doing good. Going across and up kind of like this, I think. I hope you can see that. And then we just need to decide where we want horizon line. We can make this section smaller if we want more of the sky. We can widen it and have our sky be smaller. I kind of like to have my sun on the quarter as much as I can. So if you are on the third, if you do a third this way and a third this way, this area here is kind of on the third. Maybe it's up a little bit higher than that. So this would be our quadrant that we'd be shooting for our sun, which seems a little bit high to be able to get all that we want. So I think I'm going to lower it down and have it be kind of right in here. So that'll be our sun area. So it'll be just under the third. We'll come across with our mountains here, just underneath that. And then there'll be a couple of kind of rolling hills that come this way. And then a few layers of blue in there to give us some distance, okay? So that'll be all I'm gonna do for a drawing. In fact, I'm gonna erase the blue out of the sky here so that I don't have any of that when I do my yellows. So I don't want it to turn my sky green. I'm gonna just kind of wipe that off just a little bit so I don't have too much chalk dust. Okay, so that'll give me a line to shoot for with my sky. And let's go ahead and mix up our sky colors ahead of time. That's kind of a hack that I like to do. If I know I'm wanting to do this ombre effect, it helps to have your colors mixed ahead of time so you can just quickly grab them. That way you can blend them while they're still wet and you don't have to wait while you mix the next color, okay? So, all right, so there's a lot of light in this. Gonna get some white. And I think my base color is going to be this kind of pale yellowish color that, like, really kind of orange, that's predominantly in most of the sky area here. So I'm going to get my Unbleached Titanium too, which has some of that yellow in it. It's got yellow oxide and burnt sienna and a little bit of black. And I'm going to add my yellow and orange, and we'll see what we get. Just a little bit of orange to start with, so not a ton, but something like that, like maybe 2 parts yellow to 1 part of the orange, and then like another 10 parts of the white or something. I don't know, I'm not making a formula here, but you get the idea. We can always add more white to it, so I'm really just trying to get like the brightest version of the color that I want, and then we'll work back from there. And we'll add our blue, our magentas down as we get closer to the horizon line. Okay, this is a beautiful color. Really nice, and this will work really well for most of this middle part here, I think. Okay. How are you doing? How's everybody doing? Glad you guys are here with us tonight for the live stream. If you're watching us live.
I'm doing good. Seems like everybody's doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody saying hi. All the
Good.
unusual suspects.
Very cool.
Family from around the world.
I know. I'm going to get some yellow and some more white, and I'm going to add it to this over here. And I'm going to want to mix enough so that I can kind of do it all the way across. So mix a little bit more than you think you need. But I mean, I'm not mixing a huge palette. You can see it's just still about a quarter size. This is a small canvas, so we're not going to need a ton of paint to cover it. Okay, that's nice. So kind of a pale yellow that still has a little bit of that orange tint. Started out with a little bit of that orange and then added more white and yellow to it. And then I'm gonna mix just yellow and white here. Still have a little bit of that orange on my palette, but this will be like a brighter version of the brightest part of the sun for us. Maybe a little bit more white. There we go. Okay. It's nice. And what I did with this picture that you can do with any pictures that you have is you can go into your phone app and find the little color drop tool. Like when you go in to your phone app and you go to edit the photo, you click the little, pencil to edit your photo, and then find where you can draw on your photo. So there should be a little pencil or something, pen icon, where you can draw on your photo. And usually most phones that I've owned, iPhone and Samsung or whatever, will have a color picker, which is just like looks like a little eyedrop tool. And if you take that color picker, you open up your photo, you go to edit it, and then you go to draw on it, and then you click on the color picker to pick the color that you want to draw on your photo with, which we're not going to be drawing on it. We just want to pick the colors out of it and see where they fall on the spectrum. And so I can tell where I was able to tell that this was more orange than anything else. And then as I went down, I could see that it had a little bit of purple as it came down to here. And then this blue was more of a purple blue, and then as it came down here, it was more of a green blue, and then these greens were more bright green, and these ones were more blue-green. So I was able to kind of figure out the colors that I wanted to start with when I do my own mixing. It's a really easy way of doing it, especially when you've got a color like this that's got a lot of gradients. Sometimes it can get hard to pick what colors to use, so it's just an easy way of doing it. All right, so I've got my yellow. So this is kind of top of the sky, mid sky. So I need my pink still. So I'm going to wipe that off my palette knife. Get a little bit of this over here. We'll start with about that much, and then I'm going to get some of the magenta and some the white. I might even pick up a little bit of that unbleached titanium with the magenta. You can see that you don't need a lot of magenta to really alter that color a lot. So I'm going to get a little bit more white, I think. There we go. Nice peachy salmon pink color. Really nice. Okay, that'll be perfect. Again, you'll be glad. This is kind of tedious at first, but we'll be glad we did this when we get to actually painting. So we'll just be able to dip into these colors and use them really quickly. We can blend them all together and get a nice soft gradient without having to stop to mix your color. Because if we stopped to do this while we were in the middle of this, it's going to be dry before we get this mixed. There's no way. All right, so that looks good. Then I want to go with a more fiery red, so I'm going to get a little bit more of my orange and my magenta, kind of about 50-50. Make a nice bright red. I'm going to make a little bit more of this than I think I need. Okay. And it's obviously too bright, so I'm going to take some white and I'm going to knock it down with a little bit of white. I think I want it a little bit more orangey, so I'm going to get a little bit more of that orange to add to it. Okay, so this is going to be pretty close to where we want our area around the sun to be. Maybe a little bit lighter, but we'll be mixing it into other colors that are already pretty light, so I think it'll give us room to work. And then I think maybe I just want a little bit more of just almost just orange with a little bit of magenta. Ooh, thunderstorms coming through. Are we gonna get some rain?
Let me see.
Okay, so there's a nice orange, mostly Pyrrole orange and a little bit of white. I still had a little bit of that magenta color on my palette knife. This really should go in between these two, but that's fine. I'm just going to stick it off here on its own. Okay, I'm just going to hear it. Okay, we're almost ready to start going, I think. Yeah, and I think the only other one would be like a purple color. So let me go ahead and I'm going to pull this off with a smaller brush and just leave it over here for now. I'm going to dip that brush in water. This is a blender, 3/8" blender. I'll be using that later, so I'm just going to stick it off to the side here and wipe my palette knife off again. I don't want any of that orange in here to do this next step because I want that purpley hazy color here, which actually I will be mixing it with the orange color, but for now I just want to go with the magenta and ultramarine blue. Oh, he came over to Daddy. I'll scrape that up. It had a little bit of that orange in it. It's also got a hair, which I'm going to get out of there. Okay, don't need you. And I'm going to mix that up with my blue and magenta. Okay. And this is way too purple, so I'll definitely be needing to knock it back with a little bit of orange. I'm going to grab a little bit of orange and add to that. Just a little tiny touch is all I need. Orange and blue are opposite on the color wheel. It'd probably be more like orange and phthalo blue, because phthalo blue is more green-ish blue. Would be 100% opposite, so ultramarine blue and that pyrrole orange are not going to be as neutralizing, so we'll still get a pretty lavender color out of it. I think I want a little bit more blue. I'm just going to go all the way down the line and kind of create a whole string color. Make sure none of these dry out while you're working on them, so if you need to, you can spray them at this point. I think I'm going to spray it as soon as I get this down. Okay. Added a pretty good amount of white there. So probably don't need that much. Okay, so there's that ultramarine blue with that purpley color that I just had. Okay, that'll be close to what I want on that horizon line. And you can see as I finish mixing them, I kind of scrape them up and get them to the smallest area possible. That helps with the drying time so these don't dry out as fast. So it'll give you a little bit extra time to work with them. Whoop. Didn't want that. All right. I think that's good. I'm going to put my palette knife away. You can mix this way with a brush, but a palette knife does make it a little bit less messy and a little bit less wasteful because it's harder to get the paint scraped off the brush. So, all right, so I'm going to go grab my 12 Bright and I'm going to spray my canvas, but I'm only going to spray it like one time really lightly. I don't want it super drippy. I'm going to go ahead and spray my paints too. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with that original color that we were going to start with, and I'm going to put it kind of in the middle, and then I'm going to work top to bottom with it. Okay, go all the way across, pick up a little bit of water in the corner of my brush, pick up your next color, go overlap it just a little bit. You see that? And as I'm putting this down, I'm going to kind of turn my brush side to side on the edge and kind of pull some lines through as I'm working, and that will give it kind of a nice, like, almost cloud-like effect. I added some of that pink at the top here. Don't know if I'm going to like that, but just felt like I wanted a little bit of that up there. Okay, so there we go. There's our first layer. And then I can already tell that this color is too yellow, so I'm definitely going to need to add my pink up a little bit higher. So I'm going to move it up here. Now I'm going to work down. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to get my next pink, which is that magenta color. Well, actually, I want a little bit of that peachy, more orangey color first. Okay, so this is really dark, or really bright, I mean. This might be a little too bright, but I'm not worried about it right now because I can always go back over this with my lighter color with my white in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go across like that. And this, I think I'm going to wipe my brush out now. This is still wet. So I'm just going to use what's left in my brush, which isn't much, and I'm going to pull this color up into this wet yellow. Make sure you're working pretty fast, and also make sure you watch where you stop. If I stop, I'm going to want my brush to be sideways and not horizontal, because if I have it, or perpendicular to the horizon, if I have it this way, it'll create a line where I stop it. If I have it this way, I can create kind of like what looks like a cloud. Okay, so just watch that. I can kind of go side to side, but if I go side to side this way, I want to go all the way to the edge and back and forth. And then as I come up and start stopping in the middle, I'm going to turn my brush on its end. I'm going to get some more of that middle color and go back and forth with it. Go over some of that. And that's already looking like clouds, right? A little bit. Mix those two together a little bit. Come in. And these, not laying down a ton of paint, but you do want enough to kind of work it, you know, make it move around, right? So I'm gonna get some of this more purpley magenta now. I'm gonna add a little bit of white to it. Okay. And I'm gonna bring that all the way down to my horizon line. If it's starting to feel like it's getting sticky or it's doing this a lot where it's like breaking up, then get just a little bit of water in the corner of your brush. And that will just add a little bit of water. You don't want a lot of wetness here though. You want the paint to be fluid but not really wet so that it's not going to wipe off the paint, the thicker paint that's already been put down. Okay, so there we go. Got a nice, somebody's having to go over to Daddy and get some comfort. Mm-hmm. A little scarred.
Noises outside.
Yep. Yeah, scary noises. All right, I'm gonna get some glaze now and get my purpley color. And I got the glaze because it'll help this skim over the top of this paint without sticking to it too badly, so I can kind of move around a little bit. Now, if you want, you can wait for your paint to dry completely before you do this, but okay, so that looks pretty good. It's got that kind of hazy purple color in there, and pretty happy with that. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there. And I'm gonna let this dry completely before we do anything else. It's really important to let acrylics dry in between layers. I do wanna wet this down so that these stay wet because I'm gonna need them later. So don't let those dry out while you're waiting in between. Okay. All right, so down here, we can go ahead and start blocking this in, and then we'll move back up and do more in your sky. So down here, I just want to do kind of a gradient from blue to darker blue. So I'm going to start with this ultramarine blue and white here that I have right up against the horizon line that has that purple that we just used in the sky. So I want to get pretty close to that color. I'm just going to go across. I'm going to use the corner of the brush or the edge of the brush and just establish that horizon line there. And that's about all I'm going to do there. It should be close in value to that background so that it's almost invisible. And then I'm going to get a little bit more of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. And as I go down, I'm going to add more phthalo blue to it each time. So I want to start with the more ultramarine blue and then go to a mixture of the two and then go to just the phthalo blue or close to just the phthalo blue at the bottom. And also as I do that, I'm going to increase the saturation of the color, increase the darkness of the color and the more contrast in the color. So way up here, I want to keep it very light, close to the same color as, or same value as the sky, that value being light and dark. So we're staying in this kind of range in here in our sky. And as we move closer to ourselves and closer to where we're going to put our trees are going to be like in here, those dark silhouettes of trees. So this mid ground that has all the blue tones are going to be kind of in this range here. Okay. So as we move down from our sky colors, which are like here, we're going to move darker as we get closer to ourselves. So I think that was clear, hopefully. All right.
Yes, it was.
Probably more
Good job.
than they needed, but okay.
Never.
All right. So this is the next layer blue. I'm just going to kind of put it over. And then I'm going to go a little bit darker. And there will also be a little bit more detail. So as you notice, as it gets closer to us, you're going to start to notice like trees, individual trees and things too. So I think I need this middle one to be a little bit in between, a little bit more in between. Okay, there we go. Bring that down a little bit. Okay, that looks good. So this layer is Phthalo Blue and Ultramarine Blue, pretty much 50-50 here. And it's just starting to have a little bit of, just kind of pressing up with the brush to give it a little bit of texture at the top. And I'm going to come down lower than I think I need to with this so that I can change the height of these next trees and things, okay? All right, then also going to, as I come down, going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to it. That'll keep these trees from looking too bright blue. Don't want them so obviously bright. So that looks good. Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, and just a touch of burnt sienna here. And again, as I come down, I'm increasing the saturation. I can use the corner of my brush, or I can switch brushes altogether. If you want a different kind of brush, that's fine. But I can pretty much get this if I kind of go slowly and use the corner of my brush. I can get a tree-like looking stuff back here. And I don't have to go too realistic with it at this point. And get a little bit more white so that it's kind of faded out a little bit in some places. Okay, and again, just kind of pulling it down a little bit farther than I think I need it. So the next layer can overlap. Okay. I think I might want to go a little bit more ultramarine blue with that. I think I went too green with this layer. Keep it a little bit more blue, true blue, still back here. Got plenty of time to do green down closer to us, so I think that's good. There's a few little patches of like lighter green that are like fields back there too. So I'm going to get some of that sky color and add it to what's on my brush that I just used, and I'm just going to kind of do those little flat areas back in here. Need them to be light enough. This is going to be a flat plane, which will be lighter than our dark plane back here. Will be lighter than the dark trees that are vertical. So there'll be a little bit of, anywhere you've got like flat, it's going to be getting more light than the horizontal trees that are going to be darker. So the sky is going to be your lightest. Your second lightest areas are going to be the flat plains, so the grass in the foreground, grass is here, and then all of our trees that are vertical are going to be the darkest. Our mountains, which are slanted, which are getting kind of a little bit of angled light, are going to be just darker than the flat plains. So we got sky, flat plains, mountains, trees in that order: or light to dark. I hope that made sense. Right. Excuse me. And then as it gets farther away, it also goes lighter. So it's not always that these mountains will be darker than the flat plains. You know, this flat plain is going to be actually darker because it's closer to us. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, I've got a tickle in my throat. Yeah. All right. So getting some of that ultramarine blue and the purple from the sky, which was that original color, and I kind of missed a spot right there. Just making sure I'm going all across with that. It's covering well. It's looking good. I think there needs to be a little bit more darkness on this layer here. So I might just kind of touch the top of the mountains with that color. But I'm pretty happy with how my sky is doing. And let's go ahead and put some dark. I'm just going to fill in this bottom area with some nice dark blue-green color. So I'm going to get the burnt umber and my two blues. And I'm just going to add that down here. I'm just going to go really dark. Don't go up too high with this. I want to keep it about halfway down my what is this? Flat, distant landscape here. This venue was on a hilltop overlooking this valley, so this is the valley area that we're talking about. And there'll be some darker trees that are kind of in front here too. So I'm just painting all of this that's back here, and then I'm going to get some of that blue that was here and try to kind of blend it into this color a little bit. So just kind of meet them in the middle. And then what we'll do is add some trees and things, some highlighted trees and things to this, but we'll let this dry. And then I'll go ahead and do a little bit on my green. But I'll probably be covering most of this up because I still have to do all this. But I'm going to get my green, phthalo green, and burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of yellow. I'm just going to use that down here to fill this in. Don't want it too bright. It is pretty saturated though. So just, this is probably still a little too blue and still a little too light, but we'll fix it. I'm just wanting to get color down on all the canvas for now, and we'll start working on. It's easier to see your values and what you need to change once you've got your colors all down and everything's covered. And then you can say, oh, this needs to be darker, or this needs to be lighter, or whatever. So that's why I usually start with a color on my canvas, because it helps you judge the values a little bit easier. Okay. So we're good. We're actually pretty good on the sky. You can see how easy that was, having those colors pre-mixed and going quickly and just kind of doing the side to side and then using the edge of the brush to kind of create these sort of lines here and there. It already looks like clouds. So we're just going to take it one step further and add a few brighter spots of clouds. So this is where this bright yellow that comes in that we mixed. I'm going to grab some of that. I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to kind of pick a spot. And I've switched to the blender brush, which is a smaller kind of Filbert type brush. It'll give me a little bit more control where I put this. I'm just going to lay it with the flat side against the canvas and scrub it side to side. And then just kind of wiggle it where I want that sun to come down. Okay? That's all I'm doing. Go right in there somewhere. And then right where I want the sun to be, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that color. And I'm going to kind of glob it on here. Just going to go just above the horizon line. I'm not going to go right to it. I'm going to do just like a smushed oval. There. Okay, good enough. And then I'm going to get the orange from before. And I'm going to come around it. Kind of smush around it a little bit. If you need to, you can use a smaller brush. I might switch to the 1/4 inch one instead of the 3/8 inch one here, but I think it's doing okay. And then I'm going to get the brighter red. Come out from there with the red. And then it really did kind of just zigzag. It was the weirdest thing. I did this little snaky zigzag in the sky. It was so beautiful. So I'm going to get the glaze because it'll help me kind of go a little thinner with my paint here. And I got a little bit more of that orange color. And kind of goes from orange to yellow right in here somewhere. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to wipe my brush out. I'm going to get some more of my yellow. Maybe a little bit of glaze. It's mixing with my yellow a little bit, what was left in my brush, but that's okay. And I'm going to come back over the top of what I've already done here. It's still wet. I'm just going to scrape and kind of try to blend out some of any hard edges that I'm seeing. Soften off that orange into my yellow up here. Okay. I got a little too happy with that. It kind of went farther than I wanted it to. So I'm just going to take a wet paper towel and kind of wipe that off where I don't want it. While it's still wet, it's going to come right off for me. I can actually use it to help blend too, and I might help blend it out right here with this. Just right there. Now you got to be careful when you do this because you don't want to pull off your under layers. This is why you have to make sure that the original layer is completely dry before you do your next layers. That looks pretty good. I think it's a little bit red. Kind of want it a little bit more pink maybe. So what I can do is get some of my lavender color that was this one, or that kind of magenta-y color. Let's see if I can kind of push some of that in around the edges. And blend it out. Okay, that worked. Now, because I have that color, though, I'm going to kind of pull it out a little bit more. Just a little bit, so that it kind of blends out where... Yeah, okay. Pretty close. I'm going to get a smaller round brush. Just get like a 4 round or something. Actually, that's a Filbert. Where's my round? There it is. I'm going to go back to my yellow. I'm just try to draw it in a little bit more carefully so that it's a little cleaner looking. Just do like a little semicircle here. Okay, there we go. And then I'm also going to use this brush and just kind of draw some lines in here, do my little zigzag a little bit more pronounced. Maybe get some of that magenta and add it to this red up here. Maybe a little bit of that yellow original color I'm going to turn this just a little bit so I can kind of draw with this. And honestly, this is kind of one of those things where it's done when you feel like it's done, so you don't, there's no kind of right sunset. It changes every second. I took, several photos of this, and it changed each time. So you get it to where you step back frequently, look at it, and get it to where you're kind of like, ooh, that kind of looks good, and then stop, So doesn't have to look like mine. Doesn't have to look like the photo. Just get it to where it looks kind of cool to you. So again, we're going for getting as close to it as we can, but this is nature, it's kind of sometimes can be hard to capture in the exact same way, especially sunsets. I find there's so much variation happening, so many colors happening all at once. So don't let it stress you out. Just kind of do it to the best of your ability and call it good. I don't want the stress of not getting it perfect to stop people from trying. It's gonna, if I painted this sky 3 different times, they'd each come out a little bit different, and that's okay. It's just the beauty of art. Okay, so just going through here with my yellow and kind of adding a few little final touches. I can even come in with a little bit of white if I want to, and add just a couple pops of like brighter white streaks, or even a little bit of white in my sun. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so we've got plenty of room for our tree. We still have plenty to do on our land down here, so I'm going to grab this blender again, and we'll use it to kind of do a little bit more of the detail down here. So I'm going to use this Phthalo blue that I mixed and add some of the ultramarine blue and white to it. And that will give me kind of a nice mid-tone. So I want it a little bit lighter than that. And it can be helpful to do the same thing that we did with the sky with this part. So if you have trouble seeing the values and mixing the values as you go, then start with your white, your light blue, do your next color, your next color, your next color, and have a whole string of blue to green on your palette. There's such small areas, I haven't done that here, but I could have, and probably would have saved me some mixing time. Alright, so I'm just kind of trying to add a little bit more of that mid-tone color back there. I think I went a little too far with it. So I'm going to go a little bit brighter with it. And if you have to cover this down here, just cover that down there. Hopefully you'll get it right the first time, unlike me. I'm having to go back in and darken it up just a little bit. Okay. And it honestly is fine because it's kind of foggy and, hazy back here. So having a little bit of this covering our mountains in front is not going to hurt anything. It's just going to look like fog is rolling in over them a little bit. Okay, that's closer to where I want to be. I think I want it up higher over here. Okay. Alright, so now getting a little bit of that darker color. little bit more phthalo blue, a little bit of the ultramarine. I'm just going to kind of do little semicircles here to create those little mountains. And again, make sure that I'm going a little bit darker than the area in front and behind it. Okay, something like that, and then we kind of skip around and do some little individual trees here. Keep them small. The scale is going to be small back here still. And then kind of blend into those green areas so that it's softened off. I don't want it to be too harsh right there. All right, now our next layer down, darker. Get some more phthalo blue and some more ultramarine blue. I'm going to start to add just the tiniest bit of phthalo green in here. Okay. And this is where I'm going to go over and create my tree line here. So I'm going to go over these green spots and in between them. And the green is all kind of on the same plane. You can see it. There's maybe a little bit here that I missed. I'll probably have to go back and add. Okay. Again, at the very bottom, I'm going to kind of go side to side to blend it out a little bit. We're already getting a feeling of distance here just by doing this kind of ombre effect, having that it go darker as it comes towards us, lighter in the distance. Okay, looks good. All right, liking that. And then we went pretty dark down here, so what we might do, I'll add a few more little darker spots, but I think what we're going to do is add highlights to these trees now. So I'm going to do a few more little darker spots. I added a little bit more phthalo blue and a little bit more phthalo green here. Now I don't want this to be so dark that our dark trees in front don't show up. So that's the, that's the trick here. We don't want to go too dark. We want to leave room for our trees to go, which are going to come up to about right here. So this is all getting into tree line area, or getting close to tree line area. Probably pulled that. I probably left a little too much room back there, but it's fine. It looks good, so I'm happy with it. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. I want to capture the feel of the thing, not the exact, look of it. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I'm going to get some of that ultramarine blue, phthalo blue. Probably go back to this color here or something close to it. And then maybe a little bit of my green. So just a slight greenish tint. Adding a little bit of white. We'll see what we get here. And I'm just going to pick a few of these and just tap a little bit of highlights on them. Still want them dark, so I'm not going too light here. But just a little bit of difference. Just gives it a little bit of feel of depth. And if you can't see it at all, then you need to go brighter or go darker with your background. So if I can't see what I'm doing here, it just means I need more contrast. So I'm just going to add a little bit more blue here. I'm going to put in a little area of the light green here that I missed. Right in through there. Okay. Now I'm just going to kind of make sure that there's overlapping on that little green bit that I missed. Okay, so looks pretty good. As we get down here, you can do kind of individual trees if you want, like bigger, more noticeable trees. Make sure I go ahead and do something over here, even though most of it's going to be covered up. You know, want to make sure that I don't have gaps in what I'm doing. All right, that looks pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy with that. We can always come back in and glaze over it or add other things. I might glaze it so that it's a little bit more blue overall. I feel like I probably made this layer a little too big right here. This gap in between these two. So we'll see. I can always fix that later, but I'm going to go ahead and start on these trees here. And I think what I'm going to do is start with a 3/8 inch blender, or I'm sorry, this is a Deerfoot Stippler. And when I say that, I think I'm going to do the branches first. So on these trees, color is going to be really dark green, like almost black. So I'm going to get some black. I'm going to get some of my green. Really could be any green. You could start with something like sap green if you wanted that already has black in it. That'd be fine. Just want a dark green. I'm going to add a little bit of magenta to it just to warm it up. Okay, so there will be our tree trunk color. Now, if you are not done with your sky, you need to be sure you do that now. So if you still have things you want to do with your sky, stop now, do that. I do think I might haze this up a little bit. You can see how in the picture you don't have so much of a line. So I think I might take some of this purple color and some glaze and just go over both the sky and the mountain with it across. Just all the way across and up. It's kind of translucent, so it's not super opaque. It does have white in it though, so it is opaque somewhat. So it will cover up. I don't want it in my sun necessarily, so I'm kind of trying to avoid the sun. But that helps, yeah. I just brought it up a little bit higher there and added a little bit more haze to the horizon line. Okay. All right, now I'm going to grab my liner brush or my round brush. You can use a liner if you want. And I'm thinking about where I want this tree to go. So I want this kind of area right here, and I want this to slant out and just off of that area there. So I'm just going to do kind of a very thin line like that, and then have a little bit of a branch coming up. This brush is a little bit big. Trying to get smaller lines here. Really should wait for that sky to be fully dry, but it's not going to affect it really, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, that looks good. Probably want that color to be a little bit darker, but always redo it if we need to. Okay, that's good enough. Let's go ahead and I'm going to get a little bit more dark here. And over on this side, I'm going to do my tree trunk from this all the way up. And it splits right about here. Do a big tree trunk. And right in here it starts to split up. And there's some greenery behind it, so this side I'm probably not going to do much more than that for now, just to kind of give it some placement. All right, so I want to get some greenery down and then I'll finish my tree trunk. All right, so I'm going to use my sky colors and put in some of my green with my sky colors. So whatever's back here, just get it close enough, you know, so it's that kind of orangey color right here. I'm going to get that, and then I'm going to get some of that green and blend them together, and that's what I'm going to start with here. So this will be a soft greenish color that'll have some of that sky in it. And get some more reddish, pink, add that. There we go. Just gonna give that sunlit color that'll be popping through the darker green leaves. Okay. It's okay if it's almost solid in here, it's fine. This area is going to be mostly solid leaves, and then there'll be a split here, and then a little bit more. This comes down, and then down here might do a little bit more of the purpley color, maybe a little bit more of this blue even. This is just where the green leaves are going to go. So and just on the ones that are kind of hanging over and into the sky, we'll be adding a little bit of the color down here, but this is mostly these ones that the light's filtering through to us. Down here, the light is not filtering through as much because we're seeing through to this dark color behind, or this, you know, this color behind. Up here, we're seeing through it to the sky, and that is affecting what we're seeing. So we're seeing a little bit of that corona of the sky colors coming through. Okay, so that, a little bit of the green. And maybe up here there's even some yellow. Using that corner of my brush to kind of get those lines that I'm seeing in the trees. Down here I need more of the reddish color in my trees. There we go. And then down here it'll be darker, more bluish. Okay. This is just our kind of misty, foggy color that we're seeing through the behind the main leaves. All right, so I'm gonna do these bushes down here, and then we'll come back up and do the rest of the trees here. So the trees down here, or the bushes down here, I want to do burnt umber and phthalo green and phthalo blue. So just a little bit of a blue-green tint to them. And I'm just going to bring them up. And if it's not dark enough, if you're not seeing it against that background, then you need to make your background a little bit lighter or make this color a little bit darker. So either one doesn't matter. But this should be one of the darkest colors here that we're using, though. So if it's not dark enough, then go ahead and make it darker. Now. Okay, so that's good. I can see that contrast nicely. There. We're going to add some highlights to this, so it may look darker than our reference photo yet, but we'll get it there. Something like that. I want this to kind of help stop the motion of the I'm going to add a little bit more of the greenery kind of to close off this end of the canvas. Okay, so here's this. Pay attention to the, give it a good up and down movement here. And then again, there's some down behind this tree. So this tree trunk is pretty dark. It's so dark and the background's so dark that really not seeing much of where it starts. Okay, that's good. I might flatten this out a little bit right here. I just feel like it's sloping off the end of the world there. But we can fix that as we go. All right, so I'm going to use this here and kind of do some across behind this tree here. This is where the actual tree color comes in. And this is about where I want to start putting in my tree trunk, tree limbs on this tree here. Put them back in. And I think I'm going to darken up this side. Ooh, got some up there, didn't I? When did I do that? Well, darn. That's not coming off. That's where it's good that we saved some of that color in it. Really? Wow, that long ago. Was it when I was doing this stuff or when I was doing...
Yeah.
Getting some green here, getting some of the burnt sienna, Phthalo green, burnt sienna. I'm just going to bring this up just a little bit.
You were talking with your hands and your paintbrush was in between your fingers.
Oh.
And it just swiped.
It just swiped, barely swiped it.
Yeah. And that's why you should be doing this with sock puppets. I'm just saying.
Using that yellow with my green. Well, it's really, mixed in the yellow, phthalo green, and then some burnt sienna here. That's going to go across my grass here to blend that out. Create that line. I'm going to bring it up right here just a little bit. So it just kind of flattens out right there just a little bit. It just kind of helps the momentum sort of stop from feeling like it's rolling right off the canvas. Kind of worried about it when I was cropping it. And if you want more of a rolling heel, we can do it in the middle here, but it'll still help just to have that kind of stop there. Like we can bring it up right here a little bit, maybe. Okay, I'm just going to kind of push it side to side here. Just dry brush off and basically wiping off what's left on my brush here on the canvas, side to side. And then we'll go in darker with my green. You can see it's a little bit light, but that'll give us a good starting point. I'm pretty pretty happy with it. I think I might add just like one more layer of trees back here in between those two, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a distance right there. So just right here, get a little bit darker. Let's do another little line of something way back behind this, in between. I'll just give it just that much more distance right there. We'll see. It's going to dry a little bit darker, so I'm banking on that drying a little bit for us to create some distance right there. And adding some highlights to some of those trees there. Okay, just playing with that a little bit. Get a little bit darker right here, coming down. Get a little bit more of the phthalo blue and burnt, or phthalo and ultramarine blue mixture here, and I'm just gonna come in and try to create a few little trees and things back there. Okay, get in there. So let's go ahead and get my round brush in this dark green. I'm going to get that black in my burnt umber, mix it with that dark green, and make sure that my blue brush is kind of, the paint on my brush is fluid, so that I can get a thin line here. Go back and make that a little bit darker right there. And then I'm going to come up from here and start splitting it off and doing some branches. Most of this is going to be covered, so I'm going to see much of the branch, but there is a few parts where it peeks through, so I just want a few little branches coming up. And when you do branches, you want to make sure that if you've got any areas that got thicker in the middle, that you make sure that the thicker part goes all the way down. So the thickest part here, you want to make sure it goes even thicker as it comes down towards the tree trunk. It's not going to go thinner, then thick, then thin again, and so in the middle of your tree. So branches are always tapering to smaller branches as they go out and up. Yeah, so like that little thick part right there, I need to make sure that that goes a little thicker right in there. Okay, and then I need to make sure that the below that is thicker all the way down. So I'll just kind of start very thin, and then if I have any areas like that, I've got room to go. You can always go wider, but it's harder to, can't go backwards on a tree branch and make it thinner. It's just almost impossible. You can put greenery over it though. So if you really make a boo-boo and you have an area where you really don't like how the tree branch turned out, just make sure you go thick with your foliage right there and you can cover it up. So just doing a few little branches. I think that's enough. That'll give us a feel for it. And then I think I'm going to switch to a smaller brush for this next layer just because it'll give me more control. And I think I'm going to, I don't know why I didn't, but I'm going to put this yellow orangey color back here too. Up here. Add a little bit of green to it. There we go. This is like magic when you get your upper layers on. We did this when we did our tree with the lavender field. I don't know, that was a long time ago, but we did one where we had a lavender field and the sunset was really bright like this, and do the little sky color in your green first and then do your tree over top, and it really creates that glow. It's really pretty. Right, so I'm going to get that dark green that we were just using for our tree trunks, almost black. Now I'm going to go over these areas and I'm going to leave just a little bit of that halo color showing. I'm just going to tap in here. And if it's doing too thick, if it's not showing through enough, you can switch back to the Deerfoot Stippler. This one is going a little bit heavier than I really want it, so I think I'm going to get my Stippler. Gives me control, but it also doesn't give me the little wispies on the end as much, so you kind of lose that. Some trade-off. So I'm going to get a little bit of the phthalo blue with the phthalo green, and then the burnt sienna and, or I'm sorry, burnt umber and black. Okay, there we go. I did it a little bit better on this one, so I think this is a better brush because you can see more of that halo there. I think I covered most of it up on this one. I may have to just go back in and add a little bit of that pink color back in there. It's okay. Not a big deal. Okay, see what I mean? And then down here, this whole area is pretty dark. And then as I go in toward the middle of the tree, I'm gonna go mostly black, so just kind of right in the middle of those branches. It's mostly black. And go to the other side. I need more green. Come on. Try not to touch it into any of that paint so I don't get it in my paint tube. Come on. Come off. Oh my gosh. There we go. Being difficult. Like, no, don't make me. Help. Help me. Okay, there we go. So for the last layer, I'm gonna go fairly thick with this paint on my brush and kind of just dab it. It'll really cover. Give me nice leafy like branches here, leaves. And sometimes I'm kind of turning it so I'm tapping the bottom of it. Sometimes I'm tapping the top. As I run out of paint, I'm kind of smashing the bottom of it a little bit. What I don't want to do is do straight down and get circles, because if I do straight down, then I'll get circles. So I'm kind of using the corners and edges of the brush so I don't get little round circles all over. Right over here, just use it to kind of call right there, leaving plenty of that reddish color showing through. This gives it a little bit of a sunset effect. It really works well. Nice little trick. Okay. And I might bring it out a little bit more. It's kind of a little bit more out in my picture. I'm going to get a little bit of that reddish color. Yeah, bring it out. That's good. Nice. And then if you've got any areas where it's obviously like there's a big gap, you may need to add a branch to it. So just keep an eye on that. Yeah, I don't want big, obvious gaps in your tree. But just trying to kind of bridge those areas with a little bit more foliage, and looks good. Good enough. Right, I think that's pretty good. So let's add a little bit of highlights down here. Let me get a little bit of my yellow. Add it. I'm going to just get the phthalo or the cadmium yellow. Mix that into this green that I was using in my trees here. And I'm just going to, wherever the light's hitting, so face the light coming out like this. So the ones that are facing that, I'm going to give some highlight. Right, so this one right here, maybe in the middle. Just getting some glaze to give me some moisture on my brush. I don't want to dunk it in my water right now. I'll probably add some darker back into that, but we'll see. You can even add it in my tree here. Just on the branches that are going to face in the light. Okay. Get some yellow. Just a little tiny bit of yellow. I'm kind of exaggerating this a little bit more than is in the picture. And we can maybe tone that down. We'll let it dry though. It'll dry darker, so it may be perfect once it dries. We'll see. Just want like right where that sun is, the brightest little bits. And then over here, maybe add a little bit of that light color on our tree, just a little bit. This is really in silhouette. There's not a lot of light hitting it, so I don't want too much of the light color over there. Right, yeah, I think that's a little too bright, so I'm going to get some of my darker green and just kind of tap back over that. See if I can get it toned down a little bit. And then I'm going to get my dark color again. Dark green still didn't have enough green here. I'll just tap it back, kind of a mid-tone green. It's always good to have like 3 tones. So if you have like the darkest dark and then your bright highlights, then it's good to have like a mid-tone that kind of bridges the gap between the two, so that you have 3 different values in there. That will help it look more realistic. Okay, that looks good enough, I think. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to use this color, this brush with this color. I'm going to add more yellow and some burnt sienna. And use that phthalo blue since I'm out of phthalo green. And I'm going to just tap and pull down. This color is pretty light underneath here, so ideally I'd have a darker green under here, but it is what it is at this point. I'm gonna kind of tap across here, create some darker bits. You can see about the circles here as I tap, I'm getting circles, but I'm not worried about it because I'm just gonna kind of turn my brush on its end here and go side to side with my green. Okay. Now I've got a darker green to work with here. There we go. That's pretty close to what I want it to be. Actually, it looks really bright green in the picture, doesn't it? But then when you get your color down, when I did my color picker, I was actually really surprised with how desaturated this color and how dark it was actually. It looks really light just because everything around it is so dark. I'm going to get some yellow. I'm going to tap that on and flick up, maybe try to get some grassy-like things. You could use your fan brush for this if you wanted to have real blades of grass right here. It's not super long grass, so it's not got a lot of texture to it. Like, you're not seeing big blades of grass. It's just kind of cut grass, lays a little bit more flat. There's a little bit of, texture to it, but not a ton. But you can get away with just kind of doing little side to sides with it. And keep the lightest part kind of right in the middle here where the sunlight might be hitting it, and then maybe a little darker on the sides. All right, that looks pretty good. We can do a little grassiness kind of around our tree there if you want. There's some kind of low shrubs there, so you can kind of bridge the gap between these bigger trees and the grass here if you want a little bit. Just be sure you keep it nice and dark though through there. It's really kind of looks good. I think I want a little bit more of that pink up there, my tree right there where I lost it. So I'm going to get some of that pink color and just put it sort of in my tree. There we go, like we did there. All right, we're almost done. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it turned out pretty good. I think I want to put a little bit of just a slight highlight on my tree trunk, so I'm just going to get a little bit of that. Just any of these lighter colors, doesn't really matter, and some of that burnt umber, and just go kind of along the light side of my tree trunk to kind of give a little hint of color right there. birds in your sky. You can put some flowers down here if you wanted to. It's up to you how detailed and fancy you want to get with yours. Being that it's sunset, the colors are going to start to get muted, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I think we're pretty good. I think I might just add a little tiny touch of white to my sun, just to give it that little bit of blaze of brighter color. Boy, I put out a lot of white, didn't I? That's a shame. I might skip that back into my paint tube. It's a lot of white to waste. Right. Just right there. A little bit of yellow added to it as well. All right. There we have it. Landscape. So hopefully you could see that this one isn't too, I think this one is one of the easier beginner ones, since there's not a lot going on with the clouds. You can do these little side to side motions with your brush and call it good. Probably the trickiest part is to get the blend right, but again, if you do the side to side motion and just leave your streaks in that horizontal, you can pretty well get away with anything that you do there. And then I would definitely do the color string for this portion. I got a little bit caught up in wanting to get it done, and so I didn't do it, but I think I would do the color string the way we did the sky, and just start with your light blue and move to darker blue and have it all ready to go, and then that way you'll get your layers a little bit more segmented, and you won't have to go back and touch them up like I did, because I went a little too dark or a little too light when I went with my layers. So if you kind of have it all laid out before you start, then you can see the graduation of your colors, and you won't have the problem that I did and have to go back and touch anything up. So yeah. Yeah, it was just a little piece of something. Paper towel. Yeah. Let me sign it. I'll call it good. I'm gonna use my yellow. Ooh, what? Super chat. That's awesome.
We got some super chats tonight. Now, while you've been over there painting and teaching, we've been all caught up talking about this new feature in chat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So first we'll go through the super chats and we'll explain.
Okay.
Let's see. The first chat was from Nancy.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Wow,
we
Nancy, she's
it.
a patron too.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Awesome. Then we had a donation from Wordy.
Wordy. Oh, character. Nice.
Yeah, and it's a sticker, so it's why
I love it.
It explains it what it
Yes.
is. So there. So thank you very much, Wordy.
She's.
Then we had another donation from Wordy.
Whoa, Wordy.
For all that.
What's going on? Thank you.
And then to not be outdone,
another Nancy, Mark, get a chocolate bar. I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are so generous tonight. Thank you. Very sweet.
Okay, and so what it is there's a new feature apparently in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I got a little notification about it. I wasn't sure how it worked.
Where it's ranking. So like the number of chats that you have help you in your ranking. So like I was the first one in chat today, so I was at number 1.
Nice.
I have now fallen to number 4 in the chat rankings because some people bought their ways to the top. I'm not going to mention any names.
That is awesome. I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best.
But yeah, so it was fun
it.
tonight. But
thank you so much.
The good thing is that it resets, so everybody has time to go raid their savings accounts so they can buy their way to the top next week.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was exactly. I was like, It was like you can opt out of it or something. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to leave it and see what it does.
Yeah, it's been funny.
That's hilarious. I love it. All right. Thank you guys.
But thank
so
you, everybody.
much.
You're all amazing. You're all number one in our hearts, no matter what YouTube says.
That's right. Oh my gosh, too funny. All right, here I'll get a little closer up here so you can see you can really see that sunlight effect through there. I kind of touched up my sun again. Feels like a little, I probably could have done a little bit more detail back there, but I was done messing with it. But I think it's good for a beginner lesson. I didn't want to get too caught up in all the little tiny details and miss the overall picture. But I definitely think this one is doable for a beginner. Very simple. Just a few lines. The thing with the lines that trips people up usually is not using a thin enough brush and having your paint too thick. So make sure your paint brush is thin and that you can get a thin line with your paintbrush. If you can't get a thin line with your paintbrush on the palette, you're not going to be able to do it on the canvas. So make sure you've got a thin width brush and make sure that that paint is nice and fluid so that you don't have to put a lot of pressure on it and don't press down and make your brush thicker as you press down. So do the lines as fast as you can. And if they're not perfect, put some trees over it. Put some leaves over it and you're good. So really easy to fix. No stress. We don't want any stressy. And make sure your lines taper so you have really thin lines. And make sure you give yourself enough room for your lines to taper off into nothing, you know. So don't make these branches up here really thick because then it doesn't make sense that they just go from thick to nothing, you know. So make sure you're getting a nice little taper on your branches as you go up, and the rest of this is very easy. It's just a lot of stippling, a lot of, you know, trial and error, not having too much paint on your brush, not having it, you know, globbed on, but mostly on the tip of the brush so that when you tap it, you can get that nice stippling effect. But practice it on paper, and then try it on your canvas, and I think you'll be good to go. Another one, a last minute addition.
A last minute addition.
I love it.
So let's see if I can get this to catch the whole thing here.
That's awesome.
Well, while that is, turn my mic on. So while that is trying to catch up, it's another donation from Wordy.
Oh, nice, Wordy.
She says, "Love this channel and the people in it. I'm aware I'm just a noob here, but I'm gonna catch up."
I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Very sweet. Well, I do want to mention too, now that we're at the end, I will have a traceable for this. Oh my gosh, Wordy, that is so sweet. What?
That's amazing.
Too sweet. Really appreciate that. That's crazy. Now we can pay for my dinner that I got. I treated myself
for
to
the 6-pack of chocolate chip cookies we got.
Exactly. From Chick-fil-A, which are the best. This is my Thursday, well, actually Friday. I've switched it to Friday afternoon to give my arm, my hand a little bit of a rest. I had a little carpal tunnel emergency last month that I don't want to happen again, so I'm trying to give myself a couple of days in between videos now. So I've moved my Patreon videos to Fridays now. So every Friday at 2, I do a private tutorial with my Patreon folks that are in the $15 tier or up. And we're working on this project all month long. We work on it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, every week, all the way through until it's done. So we'll probably have at least 3 or 4 more weeks on this, but you can kind of get an idea from the traceable here. And I have the original in my newsletter if you're interested in that. Here's the original drawing for it. So our first lesson was figuring out the design, cutting out all of the elements, putting them all together from the photos that I had taken, and now we're going to be painting it over the next few weeks. So there's a lot more like in-depth, especially about design and things in those lessons, and smaller groups, so there's a lot more interactive chat, and there's also a Facebook group where you can share what you're working on with me. And it includes the traceables and everything for those. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description. So it's just patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. Or you can just go to thankfulart.com. Yeah. Thankfulart.com, which is my website. We'll have links to the Patreon, and you'll also be able to find the traceable for this. The traceables are $5 a month, but you can also buy them individually for $3 if you don't want to pay for the monthly thing. The $5 a month, though, includes a bunch of bonus videos from like about 70 different bonus videos that we've done over the past few years, a beginner series that teaches you all about how to start with acrylic painting, and also all the traceables that we've done since 2017 on YouTube here.
It's worth it.
It's
So
unlimited
worth it.
downloads. Yeah, you can sign up for a month and download as much as you want and cancel the next month. No penalties, no, whatever. But hopefully, we've got a lot of people in there, and there's several that have been in there for years that have really enjoy it. So hopefully you'll join us for some of that. So if you're interested in that, you can follow those links. They're in the description. All right. What?
Is somebody different this time?
Moo. Get more cowbell.
This one from
Gail
Gail.
Barshaw. $5 from Gail. Character holding their head in their hand saying incredible. Aw, thank you, Gail.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. Thank you, guys. You've been so generous tonight. That's awesome. That's very sweet. That makes me feel so sweet. That's great. So,
We
all
have
right.
some amazing, amazing fans.
I know.
They're family. They're not fans.
Yeah,
They're,
exactly.
They're family.
And we call them our Thankful Art fam. Oh, all right. You guys make me all emotional. All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week. And that'll help pay for your new mower. Mark got a bad boy. His mower kind
I
of
don't want to go there.
died on him. A man named that,
Bad boy.
Bad boy. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.